Hello, this is how you can create queries with the service layer for SQL Server or for SAP HANA. For that, we need to log in. It's a three-step process. Create the query, call the query, delete the query, log out. So first we log in the same way as before. Then we need to create the query first, and only then we can call it with an HTTP post. You can also create parameters like this one, or like I did here. And the parameters are 2 points and then the parameter name. You need to give it a unique name, and then you can call it and also supply parameters. So for my parameter car code, you can give it the value and the name or the ID of the query, and then you delete it if you no longer need it, or keep it in the system if you need it to later on, and then you log out. So let's begin. Log in. Log in. Any moment now. Hello, SAP. Okay, so we logged in. Then we create our query and we give it this name. So this is the query that we want to create. Send. So now we have the query, and now we can call it by specifying the name. And if we have parameters, we put a question mark, parameter name, and then parameter value. Send, and it gives us the result. Then if we no longer need the query, you give it the name, and then you call an HTTP delete, and then we log out. Now, how you can do all of this from the code is basically you log in. If we have a successful login, we grab the session ID. So then we give it to the rest of the methods, create a query, we give it a name and the value for that query that we want to create and store. We call it, we provide this method the query ID and then the parameter name, parameter value. And then to remove it, we give the session and again the query ID to remove with an HTTP delete the query name. So log in, same thing as always, create query. As you saw in Postman, we go to SQL queries and we create an HTTP post. This is my JSON being built where I provide the SQL code, the query ID, and the SQL text, the actual query. And then I call it, and if everything is successful, so we get a created back, we log into the console. Then to call the query, we specify again SQL queries, but then you have to specify the query ID /list. Now we have here in this method an endless list of parameters. So in these parameters, the way I wrote it, the first one is the parameter name that we want to append, and then the parameter value of the query that we want to call. Parameter name, parameter value, parameter name, parameter value. So they're always in pairs. You can also call it without. If you don't have parameters to the query, it will still work. But if we do have parameters, we add a question mark and then the parameter name, parameter value, parameter name, parameter value. This is just a test that I get the second pair as well of the parameters, so I can grab the parameter value and I don't get an argument out of range exception. And then I call an HTTP get. We give the v10 session as the cookie, and then we deserialize the result. We have the query results in the value in here. And then I call a method to list all the nodes and values. So basically, no matter the query, this method will always show you what you have inside it. Then to remove the query, you just have to call the SQL queries method from service layer with a query ID and call an HTTP delete. And then that will remove the query. Now, running back to the top, how this thing is running. It's like this. For some reason, SAP is slow at the moment, but it is what it is. You saw it in Postman as well. Here we go. So that's how it runs. Created, called, and it lists the values that were returned, query removed, logged out. The end. Thank you for your time. Bye.